Welcome to the Hindu Daily.
It is good to be here.
We have a massive stack to get through today. I mean, it feels like we're covering the entire spectrum of human
It
experience.
really is a broad one.
We're going from the high halls of the Supreme Court to the microscopic behavior of bacteria in coconut trees and even the physics of toothpaste.
It's quite the list. 9 distinct stories today. We've got constitutional law, international geopolitics, some very worrying economic data, and some really fascinating science.
And we're going to try and weave this all together, so let's not waste any time. We are diving straight into the deep end, starting with the editorial section.
Let's do it.
So we have to start with this split verdict from the Supreme Court. It came out on January 13th, and it's all about the Prevention of Corruption Act. Now, usually when we talk about court cases, people's eyes can glaze over, but this one feels fundamental to how our democracy actually works. It's about Section 17A.
It is fundamental. And to frame this for you, imagine you're a police officer. You have credible information that a high-ranking public official has, say, taken a bribe or made a corrupt decision. Normally, you'd start an investigation.
Right, you'd start digging.
But Section 17A says, stop. You cannot even begin an inquiry into a decision made by a public servant unless you get the government's permission first.
That's the prior sanction requirement. And, on the surface, I can see the argument for it. You don't want honest officers getting harassed by frivolous complaints all the time.
And that is exactly the justification the government uses. They call it a filter. But the case before the Court Center for Public Interest Litigation versus Union of India challenged this very idea.
The petitioners argued it's not a filter, it's a shield.
Exactly, a shield. I mean, if the government has to give permission to investigate its own people, what are the odds they'll just say no every time?
And this is where we got the split verdict between Justice B.V. Nagaratha and Justice K.V. Viswanathan. So let's unpack Justice Nagaratha's view first, because she really went for the jugular here.
She certainly did. Justice Nagaratha declared Section 17A flat out unconstitutional. She didn't mince words at all.
And her main argument?
It's all about the rule of law. She believes that by forcing the police to get this prior sanction, you're effectively, you're forestalling the investigation before it even breathes. You're tipping off the suspect and giving the political executive a veto over the entire justice system.
She also brought up this concept of policy bias, which I thought was a brilliant insight.
It is. I mean, think about the structure of government. The authority that grants the sanction, usually a minister or a top bureaucrat, is often in the very same department as the person being accused.
So they might have even been part of the same decision.
Exactly. So asking them for permission to investigate is, in a way, asking them to potentially implicate themselves or their close colleagues. It's a massive conflict of interest.
And she said this isn't new, right? This is like something the court has dealt with before.
Right. She pointed out that this just revives protections the Supreme Court had already struck down years ago in famous cases like Vineet Narain and Subramanian Swamy. She basically says Section 17A is just the old single directive dressed up in new clothes.
Okay, so that's the strike it down perspective, crystal clear. But Justice Viswanathan didn't quite agree.
No, he took a more, let's say, nuanced approach. He agreed with the core problem, that the government shouldn't hold the keys. He gets that if the political executive has veto power, the investigation is dead on arrival.
But,
and this is the key divergence, he believes the idea of a filter is still valid.
he wants to protect those honest officers from harassment.
Precisely. He recognizes that public servants are vulnerable. So his solution wasn't to delete the law, but to change who holds the keys. He proposed that an independent body, maybe like the Lokpal, should be the one to grant approval.
That's an interesting middle ground. You keep the shield against harassment, but you take the control away from the politicians.
It's a fascinating proposal. It tries to balance two competing, very legitimate interests. And what's interesting is both judges cited the same principle, the signature tune, from the Vineet Narain judgment.
Which is?
However high you may be, the law is above you. They just disagree on the best mechanism to make sure that happens.
And since it's a split verdict, this isn't the final word, is it?
Not at all. Now the matter goes to the Chief Justice of India, who will have to constitute a larger bench. So this story is far from over.
A question as old as democracy itself. Okay, let's zoom out from the courtroom to the international stage. Our second editorial is a perspective piece written by the German ambassador to India, Philip Ackerman. It's titled Winds of Change.
And it opens with a really visual metaphor. You've probably seen the photos of Prime Minister Modi and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Ahmedabad.
I did, yes. They were flying kites. Looked like a fun photo op, but the ambassador says there's a deeper meaning there.
He does. He uses the kite as a symbol for the relationship. His point is that a kite doesn't fly well in still air. It needs resistance. It needs wind.
And the wind here is global instability.
Exactly. He notes that both India and Germany are facing stormy conditions, economic headwinds, wars, supply chain chaos. The argument is that these are the conditions where the partnership really shows its strength.
It's poetic, but what about the hard economics? We're talking about the third and fourth largest economies in the world.
That's the scale we're dealing with. And the ambassador makes a really important point about this partnership not being a zero-sum game.
Right. He says Germany is actually looking forward to the day India overtakes it economically.
Which sounds counterintuitive, but his logic is pure self-interest. A wealthier India is a bigger market for German engineering, for German goods. It's symbiotic.
But there's another layer he talks about that I found interesting. The human element. Migration.
Yes, that anecdote about Chancellor Merz meeting a young Indian woman.
Right, who learned German in just 4 months.
And the ambassador jokingly contrasts that with his own 4-year struggle with Hindi. But the point is serious. Germany has a demographic problem. They need skilled workers. India has a surplus of young, skilled talent.
So this migration partnership is about making that a formal, predictable pipeline.
Exactly. Safe, legal, and predictable. That's the goal. And looking ahead, 2026 is going to be a massive year for this relationship. It marks 75 years of diplomatic ties.
And they're pushing for concrete deliverables, right? Not just cultural exchange.
Well, absolutely. They're pushing hard for the EU-India Free Trade Agreement and a stronger defense partnership. Germany knows it needs India as an anchor in this part of the world.
From flying kites to anchoring global trade, that's quite a trajectory. Now, speaking of economic anchors, let's move to the opinion section. We're talking about Telangana.
Yes, and this is a classic case of the data tells one story, but the details tell another. The headline figure is stunning. Telangana has become the richest major state in India in terms of per capita income.
That is a huge claim. Richer than Gujarat, than Tamil Nadu.
Yes. In 2022-23, Telangana's per capita income hit 3.54 lakh rupees. That puts it ahead of Karnataka, Haryana, Gujarat, all of them. On paper, it's a miraculous success story.
But I sense a but coming.
There is a massive but. The article breaks down where that money is coming from, and it turns out this isn't a statewide boom, it's a metro Hyderabad boom.
How concentrated are we talking?
It is staggering.
Yeah.
The growth is driven almost entirely by just 2 districts, Hyderabad and Rangareddy. These 2 districts are only about 8.7% of the state's land area.
Okay.
Yet they account for 50% of the state's entire economy.
Half the economy and less than 10% of the land. That is the definition of centralization.
It is, and the story of Rangareddy district is the most illustrative. In 2006, the undivided Rangareddy was one of India's 250 most backward districts, poor agrarians struggling.
And
Now, thanks to the IT boom spilling over from Hyderabad, it has a per capita income of 9.5 lakh rupees. It's astronomical.
wow. But what about the rest of the state?
And that's the tragedy. Look at Vikarabad district. It was carved out of Rangareddy, so it's right next door. But it missed the IT bus.
So its income is much lower.
Its per capita income is just 1.8 lakh rupees, a 5-fold difference between neighbors. Vikarabad contributes only 1.5% to the state's output.
So you've got this island of extreme wealth surrounded by a sea of, well, stagnation.
Exactly. The analysis warns that the engine of Hyderabad has become unhinged from the rest of the train. The wealth isn't trickling down, it's concentrating. And in a democracy, that is a ticking time bomb.
Because eventually, people in the other districts are going to ask, where's our share?
Correct. You can't sustain a polity where growth is this uneven. It breeds resentment and political backlash.
A sobering reality check.
Oh.
All right, from economic growth, let's shift to agricultural survival in the science section. We're talking about a crisis in South India involving coconuts.
This is a story about a microscopic villain causing macroscopic damage. It's called root wilt disease, and it's caused by something called phytoplasma.
Phytoplasma. Sounds like something from a sci-fi movie. What is it?
It's a type of bacteria that lacks a cell wall. This makes it very hard to target with traditional methods, and it's ravaging coconut plantations in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka.
And those 3 states are the heart of India's coconut production.
Over 80% of it. So this is a direct threat to the entire industry. But the article mentions a double disaster. It's not just the coconut trees that are dying.
No, and this is the really heartbreaking part for the farmers. Many of them practice intercropping. They grow cocoa or nutmeg trees underneath the coconut palms.
For the shade.
For the shade, the coconut trees provide the perfect canopy. But when root wilt disease hits, the coconut leaves turn yellow and the canopy fails.
I see where this is going.
Suddenly, the shade-loving crops below are exposed to brutal direct sun. They suffer from heat stress and die. So the farmer loses the coconuts and the cash crops. They're completely wiped out.
And we don't have a cure for this.
We've been researching it for 150 years. There is no definitive cure. Insecticides don't work well because the disease is spread by tiny insects, vectors like lace bugs and whiteflies.
And climate change is making it worse.
Twisting the knife. Erratic temperatures stress the trees, making them more susceptible.
So if 150 years of lab science hasn't fixed it, what's the alternative? The article suggests a different approach.
It advocates for a participatory approach, or you could call it citizen science.
Yeah.
The idea is brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of just trying to breed resistance in a lab, scientists need to go into the fields, into the hot spots where the disease is rampant.
Exactly. And look for the survivors. Because in the middle of a devastated plantation, you'll often find one or two trees that are perfectly healthy, green, yielding nuts. Nature has already done the selection for us.
So we need to find these super trees and breed from them.
Yes. And who knows where these trees are? The farmers. The article argues we need to train farmers to identify these survivor trees, but more importantly, we need to incentivize them.
Give them royalties.
Exactly. If a farmer's tree saves the industry, they should get royalties. It turns the farmer from a victim into a partner.
A shift from top-down science to ground-up science. It makes perfect sense. Now let's move to the text and context section. This next story is heavy but necessary. It's about child trafficking in India.
This is a very, very sobering read. The sheer numbers are just overwhelming. The data shows that between April 2024 and March 2025, over 53,000 children were rescued from trafficking.
53,000 children. That's the population of a small city. But the statistic that really shocked me wasn't the rescue number. It was the conviction number.
That is the structural failure. Between 2018 and 2022, the conviction rate for these crimes was just 4.8%.
Less than 5%. That means 95% of the traffickers walk free.
Effectively, yes. And this is despite having very strong laws on paper. We have the Constitution, the POCSO Act, the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita.
Yeah.
The laws are there.
So if the law is strong, why is enforcement so weak?
Well, there are several reasons. One is that trafficking is almost always an interstate crime. A child is taken from a village in Jharkhand and sold in a city in Delhi. But police is a state subject.
So you have jurisdiction issues. The Jharkhand police can't easily operate in Mumbai.
Exactly. It's a coordination failure. But there's also a new emerging threat that makes it even harder. Social media.
The digital candy van.
It's a terrifying evolution. Traffickers are using Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp to lure children with fake modeling offers, fake job listings. They build trust with the child directly, bypassing the parents.
It's grooming on an industrial scale.
It is. The article emphasizes that unless we fix the conviction rate, there's no deterrence. Rescuing 53,000 kids is heroic, but if the traffickers are still on the streets, they'll just take 53,000 more.
It's a cycle that has to be broken. Speaking of children and demographics, let's look at a crisis that's the polar opposite. We're going to China.
Yes. From protecting children to a desperate struggle to create them, China is facing a demographic collapse.
We've heard about the shrinking population, but some of the measures they're taking now seem almost dystopian.
They are getting desperate. The population has been shrinking since 2022. By 2050, 40% of China's population will be over 60. They're terrified of getting older before they get richer.
So they went from one child to two child, now three child policy. But this new tax law is wild.
It is blunt force policy. Starting January 1st, 2026, China is imposing a 13% value-added tax on contraceptives.
They're literally making it more expensive to not have a baby.
Yes. While at the same time, they're throwing cash subsidies at new parents, offering love courses in universities.
It's like state-engineered romance. Please fall in love for the glory of the GDP.
That is literally the rhetoric. Xi Jinping has been giving speeches telling women to be good wives and good mothers to aid the rejuvenation of the nation.
Is any of it working?
The data says no. The birth rate keeps dropping. The problem is the economics are all wrong. Youth unemployment is high, the cost of living is exorbitant, and the work culture is brutal.
And there's the gender imbalance from the one-child policy.
30 million more men than women. You can't fix that with a tax on condoms. It's a profound structural crisis. They're also raising the retirement age because the pension fund is predicted to run dry by 2035.
It's a fascinating, if slightly terrifying, social experiment. Can a state force its population to multiply?
We're about to find out.
All right, let's take a breath and switch gears completely. From heavy demographics to, well, to toothpaste. We're looking at the piece on soft matter.
I love this piece. It answers a question I think we've all had while brushing our teeth.
Which is?
Why does toothpaste flow like a liquid when I squeeze the tube but then sit like a solid on my brush?
It's a valid question. If it were water, it would just drip off. If it were a rock, it wouldn't squeeze out.
Exactly. It belongs to a category of physics called rheology, the study of soft matter. Materials like creams, gels, shampoos. They're neither true solids nor true liquids.
And what makes them behave like that?
It's their internal structure. They have these large building blocks, droplets or macromolecules, held together by weak forces, and their behavior depends entirely on two things: how hard you push and how fast you push.
The article used a great analogy with shampoo.
Yes, the worm-like molecules. So imagine a bottle of shampoo. Inside, you have these long molecules all tangled up like a bowl of spaghetti. That's what makes it thick.
Right.
But when you squeeze the bottle, the force aligns those worms. They untangle and slide past each other, making the liquid runny. And the cool part is it's reversible. Once you stop, they tangle back up again.
That explains so much. But my favorite part of this article was the pitch drop experiment.
Oh, this is legendary in the physics world. It's been running at the University of Queensland since 1927. They have this material called pitch, or bitumen. At room temperature, it looks like a black rock. You can smash it with a hammer.
So it's a solid.
That's what it looks like. But it's actually a liquid that is 200 billion times more viscous than water. They put a lump of it in a glass funnel back in 1927 to see if it would flow.
And fed it.
Very, very slowly. In nearly 100 years, only 9 drops have fallen.
9 drops in a century.
Yes. The next one is expected around 2030. It proves a profound point. The difference between a solid and a liquid is often just a matter of the time scale you're looking at.
Everything flows.
Pontere, even the asphalt on the road is flowing, just too slowly for you to see.
That is mind-bending. Okay, moving into our final section, the spotlight. First, let's talk about the rise of Global Capability Centers, or GCCs.
This story starts with a fantastic image from history. It's 1984. Texas Instruments is setting up its first center in Bangalore, and the article describes a bullock cart, a literal ox-drawn cart,
No way.
transporting high-tech satellite equipment to their new office.
A bullock cart carrying satellite gear. That is the ultimate India contrast.
It really is. Back then, they had to break 26 different government rules just to set up. That was the seed.
And look at the tree now.
Today, there are over 1,800 GCCs in India. Revenue's growing at nearly 10% a year, and the nature of the work has completely transformed.
It's not just call centers anymore, that old stereotype.
Not at all. The old model was the captive center, cheap labor, back office stuff. The new model is the global innovation hub. Companies are doing their core R&D, AI development, and cybersecurity work right here in India.
And the article mentions this is actually changing migration patterns.
That's a key takeaway. For decades, the dream for an Indian engineer was to get an H-1B visa and move to Silicon Valley. But now with immigration getting harder, that talent is choosing to stay.
Because the work is coming to them.
Exactly. And the GCCs pay very well. They also offer a better work culture, apparently. 2-day weekends and flat hierarchies were mentioned as major draws.
But there's a critique here. The article talks about the no-bench problem.
This is a serious economic issue. Traditional companies like Infosys or Wipro hire thousands of fresh graduates, the bench, and train them. They create a pathway to the middle class.
And GCCs don't do that.
They don't. They hire lateral talent, people who are already experts. So they're skimming the cream but not building the base. And there's a geopolitical critique, too.
The secession of the successful.
That's the phrase from Sanjay Baru. He asks, are we just using our best brains to fuel American dominance? If our engineers are building the IP for U.S. companies, is India really benefiting in the long run?
Are we building our own tech giants or just powering someone else's?
That's the central question for the next decade of Indian tech.
Now for our final story, we're going from the high-tech towers of Bangalore to a very different reality in Andhra Pradesh. This is from the Inumuru tribal hamlet.
This story hit me hard. It takes us to December 22, 2025. It's a foggy morning. Women are sweeping their courtyards. Everything is peaceful.
And then the tractors arrive.
Yes. A convoy of tractors, police jeeps, and revenue officials. They were there to support a non-tribal landlord, and they just They plowed through the standing maize crop of the Koya tribe,
They destroyed their food source.
their livelihood. For 57 families, the description of the chaos is visceral women being pushed down, a man named Chander trying to stop a tractor and getting struck by the police.
So what's the actual conflict? Who owns this land?
That is the legal maze. The tribals claim it's their ancestral land. They're supposed to be protected by the 170 regulation, which forbids transferring tribal land to non-tribals. But the landlord has title deeds from 1959.
And the courts have been inconsistent.
That's putting it mildly. A 2004 court order favored the tribals, but in 2022, a new order favored the landlord. The tribals allege the records were tampered with when they were digitized.
Digital land grabbing.
It seems so. And after their crops were destroyed, 20 villagers were booked by the police for obstruction. They're facing criminal charges for trying to save their own harvest.
It feels like the whole system is stacked against them. But the article ends with a quote that suggests they aren't giving up.
Yes, from a woman named Rama Durga. It's a powerful statement. She said, "Our elders were lured with salt and tobacco. They were cheated. But we are educated now and will not accept injustice."
That shift from salt and tobacco to we are educated now, that's the story of modern India, isn't it?
It really is. Whether it's the Koya tribes fighting for land, tech workers in Bangalore, or citizens fighting corruption in the Supreme Court, people are navigating these complex systems and demanding their rights.
It connects everything we've talked about today. The law, the economy, the land.
It does. It's all about the struggle for a fair shake in a rapidly changing world.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive today. We've covered a lot of ground.
From the Supreme Court to the pitch drop, it's been quite a journey.
Thank you for listening. If you want to provide suggestions, please contact on the Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we're eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.